I just want to say that I want to dedicate this video to the loving memory of James Caron. You have affected my life more than you will ever know. May God speed, and we'll see you again someday.
With the lukewarm reception of Return of the Living Dead Part 2, fans were wondering what was going to happen with the franchise, and if they would ever see a Part 3. Well, it turns out fans would see another entry come to the Return of the Living Dead franchise in 1993 with Return of the Living Dead Part 3. A few years after Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Brian Peck and Kenny Myers end up having a dinner party with producer Tom Fox from the original two Return of the Living Deads. When they got together, Tom actually told the two that they were greenlit to do a Part 3. Tom Fox even told Brian and Kenny, come up with the treatment for a Part 3, I want to hear it. Well, Brian Peck did just that. He came up with the treatment. When he went in to go talk to the producers, well, the producers were expecting a whole presentation, and all Brian kind of had was a short story. Brian's story was going to go back to the original roots of the 2,4,5 Trioxin chemical. Because of his lack of preparation, he unfortunately did not get the job of writing the Part 3. Writer John Penny ended up getting the job for Part 3 the old-fashioned way. His manager told him to pen a treatment and send it in. John thought it would be interesting to go old school and have a Romeo and Juliet aspect for a Part 3, along with including the effects of the 2,4,5 Trioxin chemical. Of all the scripts that came through, director Brian Usna, who was already attached to the project, thought John's script was the best, and thought it would be an interesting way to go for a Part 3. When it came to casting the two main roles of Kurt and Julie, director Brian Usna would stop at nothing to find the perfect pair with the perfect on-screen chemistry. J. Trevor Edmond was cast as Kurt in the movie. He got the job based on his will and desire to do the project. J. Trevor Edmond has said that he was filming in San Diego when he got the call to go for the interview. He told his manager he unfortunately couldn't make the interview due to a conflict. When his manager said, well, what time can you be there to meet them? J. Trevor said, I can be there at midnight tonight. And to J. Trevor Edmond's surprise, they agreed to see him at midnight that night. It was that passion and desire that had director Brian Usna ready to sign J. Trevor on for the project. He wanted people to do this movie. Casting the role of Julie was definitely going to be Brian Usna's toughest part. The character in this movie was going to have to physically go through a lot and emotionally go through a lot of changes. Turned out that Minnie Clark was the only woman up for the job to play Julie. When it came to getting supporting actors, director Brian Usna really wanted to find some people with clout and name recognition. He found those two people with Sarah Douglas and actor Kent McCord. Writer John Penny did mention to director Brian Usna that it would be a shame to not have a familiar name in this movie. And of course, we got Brian Peck back. Brian Peck played the ballistic technician in arguably the best scene of the movie, in the beginning with the experiment. It was speculated that Brian Peck did reach out to Don Calfa and James Caron to be a part of the movie, and they respectively both had conflicts, but that was the only reason they weren't a part of it. The movie opens where Kurt steals his dad's military key, and him and Julie ride on over to the base to go see what's going on with this experiment his dad's been working on. When they get in, they start to observe a horrible experiment where a dead body is being exposed to the deadly 2,4,5 Trioxin chemical. The experiment obviously goes horribly wrong, and some of the people in the room, the technicians, die. Because of this failed experiment, which Kurt's dad was involved in, he was then bumped off the project and notified that he was going to be transferred. Kurt and Julie head back to their house. When the father gets there, he informs Kurt that they're going to be moving, and Kurt doesn't take too well to this. Kurt tells his dad he refuses to move again as it's the millionth time in the last 5 years, and he's had enough. Him and Julie hop on their bike and take off. As Kurt and Julie take off on the motorcycle, Julie starts to get a little too frisky with Kurt. Kurt veers off the road and they have a horrible accident where Julie passes away. With Kurt anxious to get his girlfriend back to the base to try to revive her with a 2,4,5 Trioxin chemical, we enter Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Alright guys, this is where we enter the review portion for Return of the Living Dead Part 3. Return of the Living Dead Part 3 really is the last classic Return of the Living Dead film. Upon first watching it, I just thought it was okay, but there's a lot of passion and desire and just will in this movie. The one thing that makes this movie gel as well as it does is definitely director Brian Usna, who had so much passion and love for the project. He did a great job finding a cast that not only acted well, but really wanted to do the movie. Minnie Clark was the only person I think could have really done this role the justice that she did. She went through so much emotional ups and downs, and she nailed it 100%. J. Trevor Edmond is a great character that you can easily get behind. You understand the torment he's going through as a young adolescent who wants to just live his life. He doesn't want to move back and forth, and I understand that. As somebody who's moved a couple times myself, it's not fun. The special effects really work well in this movie. Brian Usna, the director, was able to get more than one effects house to cut time and costs, and really blends well despite there being different houses doing these effects works. It's really seamless. The cast in this movie is really good. There's a lot of different characters, but they all just blend well in, and it's really just a fun movie. Return of the Living Dead Part 3 is different. It's a Romeo and Juliet type atmosphere, but if you can get behind that story, you're gonna love this movie. Return of the Living Dead Part 3, like I said, is all intents and purposes the last classic Return of the Living Dead movie, although it's not the last. 2 after that, unfortunately, they're just not that great. But I'm not saying don't go watch those. But if you're going to have a Return of the Living Dead marathon, never skip over this movie. I urge you all to go back and give this movie a shot. Sorry about the long delay from doing Part 2 to Part 3. I got busy with other things, but I did not forget about this. I know you guys enjoyed the first 2 Return of the Living Dead retrospectives. Hopefully you enjoyed this Part 3. And once again, give this movie a shot. This is Christian Hanahar. We'll see you guys next time.